I'm
All right.
very
We can now see the face of Mr. Sawaneh. Thank you so very much for
in real
taking us
life.
live, Mr. Sawaneh. Yes,
Thank
Melvin.
you.
Once again, we are live now. Melvin, please. Are you with us, Melvin?
yes, I am.
Thank you. Thank
Beautiful.
you. Thank you.
Momodou Sawaneh, take go through.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to our new global media talk show. Today is June 1st, 2025. Today we have our guest in the house, Melvin Roberts. Melvin is going to talk us through the political dimension in the Gambia and the way forward. As Melvin is part of UDP, I'm pretty sure we have seen some statements that he has also moved away from that party. So it's a lot of things to talk about. And again, he would be the main man on the show. And I have my co-host Sam Ceesay. Sam, welcome, the Thank veteran you. Sam Ceesay, and of course Ousman on the ground making things happen. Ousman Camara is here as well with us. So Melvin, take us through. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And this is the first time we met. Sam and myself we met meeting you. So I'm pretty sure our viewers also some would say they've probably seen it on social media, but this is the first time we interact. So you talk us through the political dimensions. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a guest on your show. I'm honored, highly honored for that matter, for joining you guys. I've listened to a few of your programs, and they've been very educative, very inspiring, and thought provoking. So when Omar reached out to me, I didn't. Is it Omar? It was Omar that reached
Osman,
out to me.
Osman,
Omar
Osman, Osman.
Usman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was. I didn't hesitate. So I said to him, yes, definitely, I would accept the invite to join you guys. So basically, I'm Melville Robertson Roberts. I live in the UK. I'm a lawyer by profession, and I've worked in the Gambia, the top end of the civil service. I was a deputy permanent secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I also doubled as the director for the American Affairs Division. And of course, I was basically one of the in-house legal advisors um, to um, to the foreign minister and the foreign ministry by extension on issues of law and other matters related. Um, so my specialty really in law is international law, but more of a focus. I've got a master's from the University of Oxford in foreign policy, diplomacy, and international law. And of course, I'm a social commentator. And a strong advocate for justice. And I I have been doing quite a lot. Like Usman said, the past few days have been very engaging. Of course, following subsequent to my resignation from the United Democratic Party. So it's been very colorful thus far. Few days of color. But before we go into the program proper, I had said I will crave your indulgence to do this because yesterday, as I was, we were driving, going to an event in Oxford, um, I logged onto my Facebook and realized that, shockingly, that one of us, a person who was, who created a brand in Gambian citizens, journalism, a journalist by excellence, by the name of Fatu Samba, passed away suddenly yesterday. And I did say, I would wish to just for us to, take a moment of silence along with our audience, just to remember her and to pray that God will grant her eternal rest, but also to extend a message of sympathy to her beloved parents, her beloved husband, and her family, both near and far, and to friends and well wishers. So I will just crave your indulgence, the team, if we can just have a minute, a moment of silence in honor for the sweet repose and sweet and peaceful repose of the soul of our dear Fatu Samba, a very, very phenomenal lady and all-rounder, beautiful heart, amazing personality, who's gone on before us. So I would just like for us to have a moment to remember her.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we pray that, her gentle soul
Amen. Amen.
will rest
Amen.
in perfect peace. Amen.
I mean, thank you for bringing that up. That was a big loss, and I must add, I know Pa Ousman, Pa Ousman Juf, since 2010, 2009, way back when he started the Gambian Talent in Atlanta. So having to marry to this young lady, and of course at Samba's work, everybody has seen it. So we wish her eternal peace. Yeah, thank you. All right, moving forward, Mr. Melvin. Let's jump right into it. I know there are a lot of things happening, especially surrounding your resignation from United Democratic Party. But before we get into that, we're gonna look into the political dimension of the country, and then way forward, and then how the looks of 2026 is happening. So you have the floor.
So can you qualify that? So, because when you say political dimension, you've just thrown me into the Atlantic Ocean. So basically, can you qualify that? What facet of the political dimension of the Gambia? Because the
In order to make it simple for the viewers, what we are talking about is how is the landscape, what is it looking like, what are the key players, and what is the likelihood of our fate in 2026.
so basically, the system is a bit. I think it's a bit fluid at the moment. It's fluid but very volatile, and the reason I say so is because there's an old famous political saying that a day in politics can be likened like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years in politics can be likened to a day. So what you can see today, the path and trajectory can automatically change in a few months before elections. We all know, I mean, history is there to guide us. When in 2016, the coalition government in January did not even know where they were heading to. In March of that year, there was complete disarray. And then suddenly in October of 2016, we saw a coalition government a coalition team came together. And before we knew it, it was December and the election was there and everything changed. And that's why we are here today, even talking about what's happening in a year and a half from now, which is in 2021 December elections. So of course we've seen how we've got new political actors coming into the fray. Um, we know we have SFL, who is now becoming a household name in Gambian politics. I mean, at first, I mean, the brand of SR was really linked to the TRRC, and delving into the atrocities, the alleged atrocities of the former regime, and well, he has metamorphosed himself into a political icon now and a seeming powerhouse in Gambian politics, because we can see a lot of other political actors slowly gravitating towards SR. Now, we could look at this from different dimension to say, is it because SR holds special qualities that are different from the contemporary politicians that we have in Gambia, or is it because you know the politics we've known, as it was in Gambia, has phenomenally changed. What is the yearning of the average Gambian when it comes to a political discourse? Like I said, a few days ago, the Gambia has seen a lot of traditional politics where politics is left for an election year or a year run up to the elections, and that's when either the incumbent or the opposition. Somebody has a serious background noise. That's I don't know who, if
Mr.
somebody could.
Sawaneh, your background is a bit noisy. Can you mute? All right, thank you. Now,
Yeah, thank you.
please,
So
Melville, you can proceed.
yeah, thank you very much. So basically, that's what it is. So really, I lost my trend of thought because of that. But so really, yeah. So traditional politics as we knew it is slowly shifting, with the aid of social media, the prevalence of social media, and just, I mean, of course, you have the University of Gambia, which is now an established component of the Gambian structure, especially when it comes to issues of governance. So the conversation is changing and people are asking the relevant questions. It's no more the traditional politics. Well, it's still deeply rooted, but we're slowly moving away from that, where people are beginning to ask the right questions. People are beginning to hold their leaders accountable, and leaders, political leaders are not just seen as a demigod where people can't question them and people can't ask the right and relevant questions. So we see how politics is slowly changing. So aside of SRFR, of course, you've got the Mama Kande. He's a household name. He's been there for a while. You've got the PDYS now. Nobody knows what's happening with that, with that area, because Khalifa Salah had said that he was done. I mean, he had picked up his his butts when it comes to Gambian politics, especially running for elected office. So we don't know how that conversation is going. I mean, we've seen reports that Cedia, the Honorable Cedia Jata, mentioning that if the people need and want Halifa, then Halifa might just come back. If there's popular demand for him. So of course you've got the whole UDP issue. That's no secret, out there. Of course, people speak about the factions within the UDP. Of course, the party leader has, consistently and constantly, made it known that it's a message of unity. It's a message of collectivity, that there's only one UDP. But we know internally, of course, I mean, we've seen that internal discussions now slowly coming outward, where people are actually manifesting their preference for a particular candidate and slowly gravitating towards that. So of course we know about the Talib faction. We know about the Yanks Dabo faction, the chairman Yanks Dabo faction, Mayor Talib Bensouda. Of course, there's the Lamin Sane, and of course you've got the really traditional home-based, lawyer Dabo loyalists that would it's lawyer Dabo or nothing, or anything that lawyer Dabo would endorse. So that is there. Of course, now we're seeing also with the NPP. I mean, a few days ago, I think one of the NPP big ones, one of their stalwarts have said, made some sort of an announcement that he might be forming a political party. Not sure if it's the announcement came from him, but that's a discussion that's out there. So running up to 2026, I think the conversation is going to change. And I personally feel, studying, the demographics of Gambian political discourse, I think this is going to be 2026 election is going to be the most decisive election in Gambian history. I mean, 2016 was actually trying to uproot what many term as dictatorship. And what has happened consecutively since from 2026 to now is it's like an introspection, where people have evaluated where we were in 2016, how far we've come from 2016 to date, and where is it that Gambia wants to be after 2026. So that is the conversation. So people are now beginning to ask the relevant questions, and people are beginning to see that choosing leaders based on qualities, based on effective leadership, is what would change Gambia, and it is what would be or would aid, the average Gambian, and slowly move them to a position of dependency, to a position whereby they could, be able to maximize their potentials in very profitable ways. And so that's how the conversation is slowly shifting. So we're looking into that and seeing how it all finds out. You're muted, by the way, if you don't forget to unmute your mic. Yeah.
We just want to make this interactive, and then making sure that our questions or our answers are not that long, so that we can have more engagement. You mentioned about Isafal, the exit of Isafal from TRRC, and quickly jumping into the game of politics, becoming a candidate. Haven't you seen that as an issue, like on his credibility, or actually on his ability to really attract voters? Because if you look at it, most people have started to think that Asa was doing all those things because he was eyeing to go into politics, or to become president. So we, in the last election, we've seen how poorly he did, and of course, you saying that he's been disassociating himself from that mindset, coming to become a brand name, household name. Do you think is what percentage of chance, or how much chance would he win on his own? Because I've heard that he stated that one political party could even win the presidency, which many people doubt.
Yeah. So what is your question exactly?
The question is that, do you think ESA has marched from that, that mindset of using TRRC to springboard himself to the political space?
Well, that is an accusation. I will call it an accusation because there has not been a robust, solid analytical, position on that. There's no data. There's no statistical or quantitative or qualitative data to support that. There's nothing out there. There's no scientific based evidence to show that he actually used the TRRC to catapult himself into the political arena. There's nothing like that. Of course, it's just the same typical Gambian fashion, and everybody saying, okay, he used the TRRC. It could well be so, but all I'm saying, there's nothing really out there that's grounded, solidly grounded, that we can say, okay, basically like an empirical research that's out there. There's no survey that's out there that can really justify such a position. But let's look at it again on the other side. The truth is, Esa is a Gambian. He's got rights like every other Gambian. I can decide to form my own political party tomorrow if I want to, as a bona fide Gambian, as long as I'm able to fulfill the requirements that would enable me to register a political party and run for political office. I should be able to do that, and I guess ESA enjoys that right. However, when it comes to issues of timing, I think he was absolutely and squarely wrong.
Yeah.
I do not believe that the timing was right.
Right.
And this is my honest and objective opinion. I believe the timing, in fact, is what necessitated the sort of conversations that surrounded his bid to run for office. I believe he should have allowed for the settlement of things. Yeah. The TRRC brought very raw emotions for the average Gambian. It opened the eyes of the average Gambian to things, to alleged atrocities that were taking place in Gambia for a long period of time, some of which people were hearing, for the first time, and having direct contact with the alleged perpetrators of these, very heinous crimes. And I think he branded himself as the face of that, as the man that brought all of this to the fore, to the forefront, to make it to table the issues before the Gambian populace, to allow Gambians to digest and to process everything that has happened in the past 22 years. So what I think, his announcement running for political office, it watered down that process of the TRRC. It didn't give and allow for the whole process, the beautiful, all the good job that was done by the TRRC. Seemingly, attention was diverted to this gentleman that is the brand and the face of TRRC, suddenly saying, um, I'm running for the presidency. I want to take up office. And so I feel that the timing was really wrong. And that is why, if you can see, the results of the elections reflected the sort of receptiveness of the Gambian public towards his political bid. Because at the time, Gambians feel that, yes, we celebrate you as the man that is able to bring these things and lay them bare before us. But that does not mean you automatically earn an inherent right to political office or number one marina. So that was very clear and evident in the way the votes went. But going aside of that, we all know that this trajectory, this is really changing now, and people are becoming more receptive to him because people are beginning to see the ESA as the politician and not as ESA as the TRRC lead counsel. So the distinction is there. So he's now beginning to make and solidify his gains in terms of a political powerhouse, rather than having a confusion where people couldn't even determine, am I listening to SR the TRRC lead counsel, or am I listening to SR the politician who wants to suddenly become president? So that is slowly changing, and we're seeing that he's becoming more well-grounded. We're seeing that he's beginning to make a name for himself. We see that even conversations within political discourse now, I mean, nobody in Gambia would have a proper, solid, robust political discussion without mentioning the name of SFR. He's slowly becoming a household name. The opposition parties, are looking towards developing some sort of a political relationship with ESA. I mean, people are even suggesting, and it's being bandied about that any sort of coalition, would the only person that they feel is credible enough to lead that sort of coalition against the incumbent would be a coalition headed to be led by SFR. So we could see how from 2021 to 2025 things have really changed. And not only that, as a person, I feel that he has developed himself more, because when he just jumped and entered into the political fray, that was Esa the lawyer, Esa the lead counsel, trying to slowly now, navigate himself within political waters. And it wasn't the same, because politics in Gambia is uniquely and distinctively different from anywhere in the world. You need to understand politics, you need to understand grassroots politics, and you need to be able to identify with the average masses, which I feel is something that the PDOIS party, for example, has never been able to achieve. Because you can have the most brilliant of ideas, you could be as phenomenal as ever, but you need to be able to have that ability, that unique understanding of translating your policies, your political position, your political ideologies, so that in such a way that the average man can buy into it, can understand. You need to be able to sell the brand. But not only sell the brand, you need to be able to get people to accept the brand, to see themselves being and sharing in that brand. So politics in Gambia is different. It's not the conventional politics that you see around across the world. Yes, it's a battle of ideas. We're slowly, moving towards that. But more so, politics is about identification. Is how the average voters connect with that particular individual, how they resonate with that person. And this does not only come in terms of policies. It does not come in terms of manifestos. If that was the case, trust me, the opposition will always be ahead. I mean, they can come with phenomenal and brilliant manifestos, but if you cannot connect with the masses, it's always, it turns out to be like a total disconnect politically. So that's my, my sort of understanding with the whole thing about SR. But I feel he's learned from his mistakes, and Gambians are slowly now appreciating SR as the politician, moving away from SR, the lead counsel of the TRRC.
Thank you, thank you. I will allow my co-host Sam and of course Ousman to come in, or then we can transition into UDP, your exit from UDP, and of course other subsequent areas that happened the past couple of weeks. But Sam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Sawaneh. Thank you, Melvin. We really appreciate you and all your insight into this. Very, very important. And I totally agree with you on the part of Asafal getting into politics. In a simple term, I would say too soon. So I have a question for you, and I wanted to know your opinion on this. What do you think about where Gambia is heading now with the current administration? That's one question. And in your opinion, what do we need to do to change that?
So basically, the first question, which I think is politically subjective, but factually real, is that factually and existentially, I do not feel that any Gambian in Gambia is happy with the trajectory of where things are. That's the honest and gospel truth. And this cuts across board. It cuts across political divide. It cuts across ethnicity, political affiliation. It cuts across social status. Everybody is feeling the pinch economically, socially, with what is going on in Gambia. And that is the reality. So, of course, when you look at it from a political lens, then the argument changes, because everybody looks at things from their point of view, from their, wanted point of view, basically. So they see things based on their dimension, based on their appreciation of things, and based on the correlation between them and the powerhouse and the people in government, between state power, I should call it. So if, for example, you speak to certain individuals within the NPP party, certain people that are like really powerful and have got close proximity to the corridors of power, the struggle and the hardship in Gambia cannot be felt by these individuals. They're not living it. These individuals cannot distinctively tell you the difference between the price of bread from $5 on a Monday to $5 to $6 on Thursday, because they're not that way inclined, especially financially and how they are positioned. But if you were to speak to, of course, the average Modu Lamin in Koida or in Basse that goes to buy bread on a Monday, and the price of bread for a loaf of bread is $5. But then on a Tuesday he goes back and that loaf of bread is now $7. That affects the lifestyle of that person. So that's a reality of that person. So even if you talk about the opposition, if you have, like, let's say, if you have an SFL or a Mama Kande or a lawyer Dabo wants to talk to you about the price of bread, this would be basically in the abstract. It would be subjective. But because the truth is, lawyer Dabo might not, it's probably been years when Mama Kande or an SFL walked into a boutique in Ar to buy a loaf of bread. I mean, you could assume, we're assuming, it's not that we're saying it's factual, but we're just assuming that, Esa would dish out a $10 and say, go buy bread. He doesn't care if you give him $2 his change or stuff. It doesn't work that way. However, the average Gambian that is in the hinterland of Gambia, that is, within the protectorate, as they call it, is different for them. That's a reality. That $1 difference for that price of bread can affect and change the very dimension of their family setting. It could change their plans. It could alter a whole lot of stuff. So these are the people that are feeling and seeing the reality of the crunch of what our policies, what government policies, what the sort of fiscal policies that the government is putting out there, the sort of the state of the economy. These are the people that are feeling. They bear the brunt, the brunt, the they're the end result. So all the dynamics that goes on with politics and governance and other related issues, they are the ones that actually feel the impact. So the impact, it's like a vicious circle. It trickles down. So we are having all the debates. We're trying to enlighten the masses. We're trying to put the policy holders in check. We are trying to ask the relevant questions. But to the Momodou Lamin in Bakau, they don't want to know where you think Gambia is going to be tomorrow. They don't want to understand that. What they know is they can be the hard. What they know is they go to the market today and their produce cannot allow them to buy a tin of pig milk. This is their reality. That is their politics. So politics, so the position, going back to your question, is subjective. But what is solid is that yes, we could see a lot of infrastructural development on the bottom. I mean, I've made this argument because people have said, "Oh no, but these were Drammeh's ideas, these were this person's ideas," and I've said, "No, that's not how politics run, and that's not how governments operate." What the policies of Obama, even though now we have a phenomenal president in Donald Trump who's overturning all the good things, but usually on the normal circumstances, politics leaves on. Issues of governance are walked on. It's like a relay. You give the baton to somebody else and they continue the race. How the first runner starts the race, has a lot of impact on the end result. So sometimes it may be difficult. So I'm saying, and this is what I keep saying. So you have 22 years that was marred by different issues. I mean, some attributed to a gross human rights violations. Some attributed to to an autocratic state. Some attributed to dictatorship, state capture. A whole hijacked civil service. The system was a one-man show being operated. So many things have been said out there. Whether these are realities, these are actual facts, we don't know. But what we do know is, because of where we came from, and just taking the analogy of the baton of the race, of the relay race, it might be difficult. Well, maybe that runner was a bit slow. And of course, when you give the baton to somebody, it's going to take time. So you might have other people that are ahead. And that's how you can liken politics, especially our politics in Gambia. So of course, we've come a long way. It's been 22 years. 22 years is not a day. It's not 2 days. The system that has been built within this 22 years period is rigid. It's solid. It transcends into every fabric of our society. To undo it will not take a day. To undo it will not take 2 years or 3 years or even 5 or 10 years. But what we need is to be set on the right path. The foundations have to be laid, taking away where we've been in 2016 and ensuring that we're moving away from that. We shouldn't appear to be stagnant. We shouldn't appear to be taking steps backwards. But if you look at the way things are going, if you look at the whole conversation in our discourse now with the Drammeh Commission, the TRRC recommendations, and so many other issues, you begin to ask yourself the questions: are we taking a step back forward and 10 steps backwards? What are we correcting? Are we correcting the system, or are we allowing the system to correct us by us growing into the system and becoming comfortable? So, for example, there was a time when the clarion call politically in campaigns and everything was a total rejection of the Public Order Act. total rejecter of the 1997 Constitution, which some political leaders and actors have even called and branded the Drammeh Commission, the Drammeh Constitution. I've always said there's nothing like a Drammeh Constitution. We have the Constitution of the Gambia that was passed through a referendum overwhelmingly by the Gambian public, and we still have it. But the question is, when you look at, going back to your question and just trying to draw inference, Drammeh has been gone since 2016. That is 8 solid years. But we are still using what is dubbed as the Drammeh Constitution. Why is that so? Because there is a convergence, a divergence rather, of political will when it comes to that. We still cannot be unified to come and collectively agree on the most important document that would govern every facet of our lives as Gambians. So if you want to look at where we are we on the right path? The truth is, we need to recalibrate our steps as a country, as a nation, as a government, and as a people. The truth is, we need to recalibrate our steps. We need to rechange our focus. We need to begin to be serious as a country. And at times, we mostly want to hold our leaders accountable, but we are not holding ourselves accountable. And the first thing we need to do, which I think is one of the most difficult things to do, is to hold ourselves accountable. So when it is your family member, you turn a blind eye. When it is your friend, you turn a blind eye. When it is your enemy, your political foe, you are in the front and calling for transparency, calling for accountability. That is hypocritical. And we cannot move on as a nation if we continue to look outward without doing an introspection of who we are as a people.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So
thank you for that. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your insight. Really appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for that question. Ousman, been waiting.
Yes. Absolutely. I really wish to thank Councillor Roberts. I think he has been phenomenal. He has been very insightful, and his contributions have been very genuine. I really appreciate that. Sam Ceesay, your questions are worth asking, and of course, Mr. Sawaneh as well. Thank you sincerely. Just a quick one, Mr. Melville. Please take us through you talked about the youth's involvement in politics, which of course gives you a lot of excitement. Can you tell us, because at some point, your last part of your contribution, you highlighted that sometimes the political space is not very conducive, especially when it comes to your family, or how you react to the situation. But when it comes to your enemy, you reacted very, very bad, and which is of course not actually welcoming. How will you encourage the youth populations? Like that, we see the dimension of the Gambia now, political arena, is like the youth are so much active. They want to come into the political arena, but at some point they are discouraged. How will you actually, what ways do you think, or what do you have for the youth in terms of their participation in our political dimension? Thank you so very much for the first question. Thank you.
The truth is, if you look at the demographics in Gambia with regards to voter turnout, I mean, if you look at the last census they did, the youth bracket makes up the largest component. I think 60% or so, the last time between 60 and 65% was within that youth bracket. So the youth have a lot of say, and they're a major stakeholder in our political discourse. However, I feel that youthful exuberance should be set aside, because when you have a lot of that sort of idea, it is not sustainable. So the youth need to know, first and foremost, is they have to have an objective. Before that objective, they need to have a vision. So when you have a vision, then you have an objective. And the reason for your objective is to realize your vision. So the youth have to have a vision. And the vision is, what do they want? What sort of a country do they want? What sort of a governance structure do they want? What sort of a system do they want in place? And where do they want to see themselves in the future and in the generation to come? That would be the vision. And then you have the objective. What is the objective? How do you realize that vision? Now, when you have the objective, then you have to strategize. You have to strategize to meet your objectives so that your objectives can meet your vision. And your vision could put you at a position of comparative advantage. Now, what we need to first have is an honest conversation amongst the youths. It is one to just go out there and demand answers. But the question to be asked is, when you demand these answers and the answer is given to you, what's the next step? What is the next step? So the youths need to galvanize. They need to organize. But that organization has to be strategic. Now, I'll give you an example. So I'm sure we're talking about the youths, and of course, the brand name is Gala. Now, when Gala came out, the timing was right. And I've tried to explain this to a few people a few times. What is Gala? Gala is a pressure movement, a pressure organization, as we've seen in all other parts of the world. But there's one thing that's unique about pressure groups, and that is the fact that it needs to be backed by the overwhelming majority of the populace. Mm-hmm. If not, it becomes redundant. So when Gala came out, Gala was successful because the average Gambian could identify with their objective.
Yeah.
Why could the average Gambian identify with their objective? Because the report of Mustafa Dabo by the Republic had set the pace. People were already talking. The average Gambian had an insight into what transpired, where the deficits were, where the conversations had a gap in them. So everybody was interested. People wanted to know. That foundation was already built. And the mindset of the average Gambians was already geared towards that. Now, when you have Gala come out, what it did was to consolidate the gains. So they became like the ball that everyone had their eye on, because people could come together. I wanted to know what happened and how the former president's assets that they claim belonged to every Gambian was disposed of. You wanted to know what happened to the proceeds here. Probably Sam wanted to know, after the proceeds, what happened to those funds. And of course, a great man up there wanted to know how a property that was in Drammeh's name was slowly converted into the name of one Momodou. So when Gala came out, my question, your question, his question, Sam's question was the question that was collectively asked by this team of young men. So I would support them because Gala, being on the ground as a pressure group, was demanding the answers that I want. You could support them. Sam could support them. The average Gambian could support them because we can identify with their objective. But wait, they went out, and because all of us identified with them, it became a success story because they had the backing of the people. And we all know in every democracy, it is people's power. The people have power. The leaders have got authority vested in them by the people. But we all know the real power belongs to the people.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that was what we saw, and that was what happened. Now, when they made that achievement, we had answers because it was solidified by the common interest and support of the overwhelming majority of Gambians. The assets list came out. The president spoke. A National Assembly Select Committee was launched.
Yep.
That was the objective, and it was met. But then the question now that we should ask, what next? What next?
Justice.
You want justice. But then justice becomes subjective. Because that's where convergence will turn into divergence. Because what would be justice for me would not be justice for Sam. When Sam will begin to see his brother buying a property worth $1 million for $5. So justice will slowly start to be subjective, depending on the lens that you try to look at that. You're asking for accountability. You're asking the National Assembly to set up a committee. But did you ask yourself, is the executive culpable? Are they a party to everything that's going on? I'm not saying they are. I'm asking the relevant questions. And then you begin to ask yourself the question, when the National Assembly meets, when they finish their report and findings, who did they submit it to? The executive.
Office of the president.
The executive. The office of the president. Who should implement the recommendations? The office of the president. The executive.
That's right.
Who did not, or who did implement the recommendations of the Drammeh Commission?
The executive.
The executive.
The executive.
So what are you doing? That is where you would begin to see that justice is subjective and not as grounded as we thought. And that is why I keep saying the youth can ask the questions, the youth can have the objective of what they want, but the solid strategy and the end results need to be unequivocally clear. And this needs to resonate with the average Gambian. Because if it does not, their support base falls. Without the support of the masses, they are nothing. They get nothing. Because it's them and the deep blue sea. Because you have the power, the authority over there, which is the executive. You have them, and then you have the people that should support them that has got the power. So if they are in the center and there's a disconnect between the youths and the people that would give them the backing that they need, and of course there's a disconnect with the people at the top who they are trying to hold accountable, then it falls. So the youths cannot be used as a political tool. Because when they're used as a political tool, it falls flat. Because there could not be convergence. It would always be divergence. Because when you look at things politically, we can arrive at different conclusions, and we will have different interpretations, and we will have different interests. Because what might interest the UDP might not interest the NPP. And there you see how that people power will begin to diversify. So I think the conversation has to be structured. The aims and objectives has to be clear. But the vision has to be solid. And this vision must be shared by the overwhelming majority of Gambians. And therefore, you need to educate, you need to bring on board, and you need to set the pace, the scene, the environment for people to buy into that idea and recognize that through this pressure group, through these young people, my voice too can be heard.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so very much, Sam. Ceesay, Mr. Sawaneh, I think we are left with like 10 minutes. I wanted to give him my second question, but we cannot. Perhaps that would be a bit late. So, Sam, sorry, Mr. Sawaneh, I think you wanted to ask him a few questions about his resignations. Okay, Sam, Mr. Sawaneh, you can proceed, please.
Okay, thank you, Ousman. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes. So, Melvin, just wanna we want to clear the air because this is this news that came out. I read about it. I was even gonna publish it on our media about the exit from UDP, based on the fact that the way things are, the things at stake, 2026, and the UDP being a political party on a solid foundation, structured, and have a lot of talent. And if we're gonna change the dynamic of the Gambian political landscape, UDP must be a stakeholder. So, what causes you to, quit at this juncture, at this critical time?
Okay, very interesting question, but very easy to answer. I joined the UDP on principle, and I left the UDP on principle. And the principles didn't shift. They didn't change. It's remained solid since the time I joined till when I left. Now, the opposition has a lot of work to do. And like I said, we're slowly moving from traditional politics to a politics of reality, where it is not about what politicians are saying that the sitting government is doing wrong, but rather being able to convince their followers of how they will do things differently and how under their administration, the same issues that they're identifying wouldn't repeat itself. We are all in Gambian social media discourse. We all know what's going on. We are all asking the right and same questions. The first question is, if a person that has now, this singular authority in the person of Mr. Batambedu, who was the chief architect of the Drammeh Commission. And again, like I stated before, we always have to have the vision, and then we have the objective, and then we have strategies that would allow our objectives to translate into the vision. As the architect of the Drammeh Commission, there was a vision, there was a purpose. And that purpose was to recover what we believe belonged to every Gambian, and not Drammeh as an individual. The purpose was to have an honest conversation as a country where we take stock of where we have been, what we have done wrong, and the corrective measures that must be put in place to ensure such an occurrence would never, ever take place again. But what we have seen thus far in the Drammeh Commission is that we moved from state capture from one man, presumably Drammeh, to state capture of a group of individuals who believe they are privileged enough, smart enough to circumvent the entire system that would allow you and I to share in the national cake. And the chief architect of this, the person who brought this into existence, and also was the same person who was the chief legal advisor to the president to ensure that the recommendations of the Drammeh Commission were followed to the letter in order to serve as a corrective means of what went wrong with Drammeh. And if we, as a people, I as an individual, I'm seeing that, what was the purpose of the Drammeh Commission? Drammeh stole, you stole,
Everybody stole.
I am still at a loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the need for the soap opera, the reality TV show that we all got glued to our television? And then today, I'm not in a better position than I was before Drammeh left. In fact, what has happened, I am even more angry because I am not only in a position that's not better than prior, but my mental health, my psychological being is different because I know what I could have gained, because you have told me that this is what Drammeh took, which at first I didn't know, I couldn't quantify, and you're telling me this is ours, it's meant to be shared. But all of a sudden, what happened? We don't know what happened to the Drammeh Commission reports. We're being told that an entire volume is missing from the system. We're being told that annexes that should have formed part of the report have gone missing. These things don't have legs. These things didn't fly. And this one person who is the center of everything, that every Gambian is asking the same question. A serious political party that is branding itself in fighting corruption, in fighting state capture, a political party that prides itself in advancing accountability and transparency, cannot, to my mind, endorse such an individual to a position of such high office as the ICJ judge. I believe as a political party that these allegations are so grounded, so far extended, that the party should have taken a position that shows the average Gambian that what they are saying is not just spoken words, but it could be translated into their actions. Enough of theoretical politics. We don't want that no more. We don't want politics of theories. We don't want politics of grandstanding. We don't want politics of who the best orator is. We want to see real, tangible results. We want to see political parties themselves being accountable to the fact that they would not endorse a person whose office is questionable, whose dealings with the Drammeh Commission is questionable. To an extent, a National Assembly committee has been set up to look into the very affairs of those things. You cannot, you have to be complete ludicrous to say that you're not part of the conversation. Because if you say you're not part of the conversation, it manifests a complete disconnect from what is prevailing in society, the right questions that are being asked. And I believe UDP as a political party should have been able to set the example, to say that, hey, you know what? We have heard your cries. We are part of the political discussion and discourse. Just as we are pointing to the executive we know that there was an individual who was the chief legal advisor to the executive, to the president, and the person who was the supervisor and who had the oversight authority over these matters. You hold them accountable.
Exactly.
You don't even have to say you're not or will never endorse them, but you can say, you know what, we will put our endorsement on hold. We will allow for due process to go on. That is what a serious entity does.
And
You
that's why,
show leadership.
Well, thank you so very much, Mr.
yeah,
Melvin. Yes, Mr. Sawaneh, please, we are running out of time, and of course, this engagement is getting more and more insightful. But we are running out of time. Thank you so very much.
yeah. So what we will do is at least he answered that question. We all know what his answers is because of what the support of the party on the posting handling the Janet Commission, of course, and all of those things. So on that particular note, thank you so much.
If I could just say something just quickly within a minute, I'll try to summarize this.
Okay.
Because what the party
Okay.
endorsement is doing, even though the endorsement came out before all these damning revelations, but the continued endorsement and the continued silence of the party is basically saying, because this endorsement is saying this man is a man of sterling character. This man is absolutely phenomenal. This man is brilliant. This man is a good administrator. This man, as Minister of Justice, did phenomenal work to the extent that you can rely on him to be an ICJ judge. So what that is doing is to say to the National Assembly Committee now that is looking into these affairs that, hey, don't touch this guy because we believe as a political party that he is beyond reproach. That is what they're doing.
Yeah, is undermining the process. So this is why Melvin quit United Democratic Party, and of course we respect that. So we're gonna finalize our last words here. So Sam, if you have something to say, your last take.
Yep. Well, I
Sam,
won't say too much
I
today,
have
but
Adaya for you, please.
Can you give it to him?
he has a tie-up for me. That's nice. Well, like I always like to do when we have a guest, I want to give the guest that time and all the time necessary for the guest to say what they need to say. But Melvin, I really appreciate you very much in your decision, and is a very tangible decision, and I totally concur with you because if we want to hold leaders accountable, we've got to hold ourselves accountable, and we need to walk the talk, and we need to be able to demonstrate being leading by example. That's what every individual need to do. Much more collectively as an organization or as a group or so, or party. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you very much. I'm sure we will find a way to get you back on here sometime where we can dive into some other aspects of the political arena, because 2026 is just right around the corner, and there's more to talk about. There's more that needs to happen because, like you first started, every single Gambian knows the pain in the Gambia right now. We all know it, whether we're in the Gambia or not. We all hear the same thing, and we know it. We support them. So we need change. We definitely need to move in a different direction than what we are in now. So things really need to change. How that change need to happen, there's more to talk about that. And I would just say thank you so much. Thank you. And I hope we get you here again another time.
Thank you, Sam. Somebody just typed that the program is interesting but too short. So I guess
I know.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Sawaneh. Thank you for being the main man behind the machine and giving us the opportunity to get live. And of course, Sam, Ceesay, thank you so very much also for your contributions and the questions. And of course, our main man today, that's Melvin Robertson, of course, councilman. Thank you sincerely. I must say profoundly, I'm delighted and excited with the manner in which you approach the questions and how you, insightfully contributed to each of the question accordingly. As you said, time is definitely running out, and then we have to stop here. But I must say, we miss our man, of course, Famara Drammeh. He texted me. He said, Ousman, I'm currently in the Gambia and I will see you in Kato. Of course, Sam Ceesay, and of course, Mr. Sawaneh, tell your man that I'm waiting for him in Kato, and anytime he's available, let him just let me know. And then I will give you the environment that is, of course, best, so that at least he can have the most amazing time in the Gambia. Once again, Sam Ceesay, and of course, Mr. Sawaneh, Mr. Robertson, thank you sincerely, and our guests, our viewers as well. We thank you so very much for being with us. And of course, we see you again next week Sunday. Thank you so very much, Mr. Sawaneh.
Thank you. And Melvin, one more thing. Where are you heading? So you're gonna take a break.
Where am I headed? As
far as party is concerned.
Oh, I'm enjoying the independence of. I'm a very independent person, because I mean, a lot of people have said to me they didn't even know I was part of the UDP, because I've always been objective and independent in my, in my discourse, basically. So let's see how it goes. When the moment is right and the time is right, we will come back again and we will recalibrate our steps.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
We'll definitely have you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
I'm grateful.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.